Welcome to another episode of the Policy 101 series with ILMEA. I am joined as always by my colleague Lauren Rupert, the Policy and Advocacy intern for this summer. And today we wanted to talk about and bring together all of these ideas of what you can do, what you as an active and engaged citizen can do, what you can do as an educator in the state of Illinois to get involved in policy and advocacy. So hopefully today we are going to give you some very concrete things that you can do. We are going to throw a lot of information at you, but all of these resources we'll make sure to put in show notes as well, so that as you come back to it, as you think about ways to get involved, we'll have all of those resources ready for you. All right, Lauren, should we just jump right in?
Let's do it.
All right. So we've talked before about getting involved at the very, very local level with unions and school districts. So what are some ways that people can start off by getting involved at that very local level?
Yeah, so right away at the start of the school year, you really want to make that connection with your union leadership. So make it a point to find out who are your leaders, either at like the executive union level or also your building representatives. Make sure you say hello, introduce yourself if you're not someone who already knows them, and just really make yourself known. So have that good positive interaction. You also want to try and become involved in your teachers' union. So there are a few different ways you can do this. At the very basic level, attend meetings. I know from my experience that, it's very easy for the union meetings to get lost in the shuffle when it comes with all of our music commitments after school. Put them on your calendar right away. Make a point that you will be there so that you can speak up in those meetings and make your voice heard. If you're able to become a representative, that's a great way too. Oftentimes those elections happen in the previous school year. So maybe it's not on the table for this year, but attend meetings, speak up, and then maybe you'll want to become a representative next year. And then finally with the unions, again, if it is a bargaining year and you have the capacity to do so, join the bargaining team, be a part of the conversation, make your voice heard, and advocate for the arts. Aside from unions, just get involved with your local school board. So try and attend at least one school board meeting a semester. Again, take a look at those dates, get it on your calendar now, because at least for me, if it's on the calendar, it is much more likely that it's going to happen. And also find ways for students to be recognized for their musical achievements at the school board meetings. You want your representatives, your school board members, to see the impact of the arts on your community. Some of them might have kids in your programs, but others might not. So you want to make them aware of what's going on. And then finally,
with both the union part and the school board part, you had mentioned like meeting them face to face, meeting them in person with the union leadership. And the same goes for school board, because I think as people are making decisions, if it's just a name or a music program that they really can't identify with, it becomes a lot easier to make decisions without taking that into account. But if you are a name that they know, a face that they know, if they remember hearing students sing at the opening of the school board meeting, that makes it a lot more difficult for them just to brush those decisions aside, but really to take them into account, because now they identify someone with those decisions. And that's a really important piece.
Yeah, absolutely. That's crucial, actually. Then the last thing that we're suggesting is find and follow relevant organizations on social media. Just getting access to that content is huge. So if you don't already follow ILMEA, make sure you follow ILMEA. Then looking more at the state level, we have the Illinois Education Association, the National Education Association, the Illinois Federation of Teachers, the American Federation of Teachers. Then I also recommend the Chicago Teachers Union, because not only is it the largest teachers union in the state, it's also one of the largest in the country. And so CTU is often at the forefront of a lot of these union conversations.
A lot of those organizations are going to be sharing out information about what's being discussed, what types of decisions are being made. So even if you're not a member of one of the IEA or the IFT, you can still follow them just to stay abreast of what's happening, for sure. All right, so let's zoom out, thinking about the state level, especially the Illinois General Assembly and the legislative process in the state. So what are the ways that you would recommend to get involved at the state level?
All right, so first off, make sure you know who your legislators are. We will provide a link in the show notes for you to figure that out. It's very simple. You just type in your address and then it tells you all your information. You might even want to consider finding, if you live in a different district than you teach in, find out who the representatives are in both areas, because even though you might not live in the district while you work or the district where you work, those decisions still have a huge impact on you and your life. And then try and contact your representatives. I know that that can seem very scary the first time. So if it's brand new, maybe commit to, you know what? Okay, once this year, I am going to reach out. I am going to say something. So you can contact your representatives via a letter, phone call, or an in-person meeting. So choose the medium that is most comfortable to you. And you want to start off, always let them know that you are a constituent. So you are someone who lives in their district, their decisions affect you. Just like we've been talking about with unions, school boards, don't wait until legislation is on the table to initiate a relationship. You can thank them for voting a certain way, ask a question about your district, and you could even reach out to them now during the summer to invite them to attend a performance in the fall, or invite them to visit your school music program for a day. So really make them an active part of your local music community. For important pieces of legislation, many organizations will provide a template of what to say when you write to or call your legislator. So if you are already following and in contact with different organizations on social media, that information will probably be pretty readily available to you. An item that you could consider contacting about right now is that foreign language requirement that we've discussed. I know many high school teachers especially are concerned about this, so call your representatives. Let them know how it would likely impact you, impact your students, and what the effects of that might be. This doesn't go into effect until the 2028-2029 school year, so there is time. Reach out, make your voice heard that you disagree with this requirement, or that you would like to see change with it.
So one thing we can tell people is that ILMEA does have language available very generally about expressing concern for the foreign language requirement. In the very near future, we are going to have a more specific legislative ask, but now is a good time to set the groundwork for that and set the foundation for that and get that line of communication open with your local legislator, letting them know it's a concern, letting them know why it's a concern, so that when that specific ask does come up, there's already a conversation going about that.
Absolutely. Making your legislators aware of the issues before the legislation comes up is going to be so, so powerful. And then on that note, as we're thinking specifically about the foreign language requirements, a letter or a phone call is a great way to raise awareness. But once ILMEA has a specific ask on the table, an in-person meeting can be so powerful if you are impacted by the legislation. The fact that you're taking time to go to the office is huge. This doesn't mean you have to go all the way to Springfield if you live far from Springfield. Every lawmaker has an office in their district, and they're in their district during the summer months anytime that they're out of session. So you can reach out, schedule a meeting at your local office. And then finally, just some other ways to get involved at the local level. There are more resources that we'll link to in the show notes, such as the IEA Capital Watch. So the Illinois Education Association tracks specifically Illinois legislation that relates to education. So they'll kind of outline the legislation, state IEA's position, and provide fact sheets so you can keep up to date with that. And if you're interested in legislation outside of education, there is a tool called Legiscan that keeps tabs on all Illinois legislation. So you can see everything that's on the table.
Great. So we've talked a little bit just now and also in a past episode about where in that process it's best to make your voice heard or has the most impact. So can you just recap for us where in that process, I mean, anytime is a good time to reach out to your legislator, but specifically when there's a bill on the table, when is it good to reach out to your policymaker about that?
There are three spots that I think are going to be the most effective. So the first is when the bill is in committee. Remember, that's the first real step in the process. You can encourage your legislator to sponsor the bill or to not sponsor the bill, of course, depending on how you're feeling about it. So when it's in committee, that's the first step. And remember that the more sponsors a bill has, the more likely it is to pass. Once the bill has gone through committee, remember they go through 3 readings, and after the third reading is the final vote. So when it's time for that third reading, you can encourage your legislators to vote for or against the bill. And remember, that'll happen twice. So you'll want to encourage your representative in the House, and then you will also want to encourage your state senator. And then finally, once it passes through the houses, the governor has to sign it. You can also reach out to the governor, encourage him to sign or veto the bill.
So I mean, what we've kept hearing over and over, it's all about introducing yourself, meeting people, developing relationships, and communication. I think that those are the themes that we keep seeing and keep hearing about over and over again.
Mhm.
So a lot of resources that we've talked about today that we'll make sure to link in the show notes and share out to anybody who's watching. And just want to leave you with an encouragement to pick a couple of the things that we've talked about. And then maybe even today, if you don't know who your state senator and rep are, if you're hearing this and you can't think of who that is, go seek out who that person is and follow them on social media. That's a really easy way to get involved and to start thinking about how you can develop a relationship with that person. So just think of 1 or 2 ways today that you can take what we've talked about and implement it yourself, so that that's the first step in getting yourself involved in the process. Anything else, Lauren, to share today?
I would just say a reminder that your voice really does matter. And so I think this is an exciting time for music educators. If we all chip in, if we all do a little bit, even though it can be really, really busy for us, that we can still affect change.
Definitely. Well, we hope that this encouraged and empowered you as you listened and watched today. And we are excited to get involved and work together with you to affect some really meaningful change for Illinois student musicians and Illinois music educators. So thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to working with you very, very soon.